Hi everybody. So recently some people have been asking how I approach songs, and more specifically how I record them and figure them out in general. So what I'm going to try and do is figure out the song but also record me doing it, so you can see my approach to everything. Guys, just a quick note, this video is going to be longer than my usual videos, but stick with it. So when I'm figuring out songs, what I tend to do is I'll listen to the song over and over and over again to the point where I kind of zone out and I'm not even listening to the song anymore. And what I find that does is it kind of gets ingrained in my head, so that when I'm figuring it out, I've already heard the part 100 times before, and I'm just concentrating on replicating it more. So today I've had probably about an hour or so of driving, so I've just listened to the song Instincts of Mice and Men. If you've not heard it, check it out, the whole album is amazing. Anyway, so I've been listening to that over and over again, and now I'm going to start to learn it. And what I've done is I've just got the audio file, dropped it into Logic, and gone to a website that I'll share with you in the description, and you'll see it in a second, is the BPM counter. So I'm just using the spacebar to find out the BPM of the song, so then I can set up a click track throughout various parts of the song, the first one being the intro. I think the riff is being played 12th fret upwards, because you can hear that the string is fatter. It's got a fatter sound, for instance here, and you can hear, I'm sure, that the guitar sound is different. So I'm pretty certain that it's playing there, and obviously there's lots of chugging as well. So let's listen to the track and see if I'm on the right track. Incidentally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a cycle so that it only plays the intro riff over and over again instead of me having to go back to the start. As a side note, I know that a lot of people will use YouTube to play along to the song and figure it out, and they'll use YouTube speed adjustments, like playback speed adjustments, in order to be able to slow it down and gradually speed up. What I find, because I'm recording in Logic anyway and I'm using the plugins that I've got in there, then it makes sense for me to drag the track onto there, set up a click track, and use Logic's vary speed function to really slow down the track. Even in fractions of a percent, you can then speed it gradually back up to regular tempo, and then even a little bit quicker if you want to make sure that you can definitely nail it. Anyway, let's listen to the track. Right, here we go. Okay, so I think I'm onto it. Anyway, let's try playing it along to the track. I've got the guitar noticeably louder just whilst I figure it out. So what I was doing then, just to let you know, is I was making sure, because you can hear the clarity of the note on these thinner strings, so compared to, I was just making sure that from a note choice perspective I've got the exact notes, and also checking out if it felt any easier to play, but to be honest it feels the same. Yeah, I'll practice that a few more times and play along with the track a little bit more, just to make sure that I can actually sustain it over a longer period and I'm not just fluking it. So what I mean by that is I might play the part correctly one time and then fluff the rest of it, and I don't want to rush through learning the rest of the song until I've got it nailed piece by piece. In fact, I should probably learn that end part so I can actually do the whole cycle. So I'm just changing what I'm repeating and making it zone in on that end phrase. When I'm figuring these kind of parts out, and I think this will help, is what I'll do is find the first note that I can hear, and then from there I'll think about what's the logical way to play this. It's not necessarily about knowing scales and things like that for me, it's more what would make sense as a guitarist to play. I'm not going to go from one note to a different note that's completely at the opposite end of the guitar. It's going to be within maybe a 4 or 5 fret area. So if I found the first note, then I can probably figure out that it's going to be anywhere between, so that's the 8th fret, God, my mind blank, 8th fret of the D string, which is in C. So I'm either going to go down 3 more frets to the 5th fret, or I'm going to go up to 11. It doesn't sound like it's going up, it sounds like it's going down, so my logical progression would be to go that going down like a tone and semitone sounds too, that note doesn't sound right, so I think it's something around definitely those first 2 notes, and then it's going down even further. So I'm thinking, okay, so if I go here, I've got these 3 fingers that can move somewhere else. I've got a feeling it might be that. What I'm going to do is just slow down the track slightly. And this is just slowing down the speed only, not the pitch. So I can't make up my mind at this point if it goes or... So I'm going to figure out the rest of it, and then hopefully it will piece that 3rd note, the mysterious note. Hopefully that will make sense at that point. Right, so we're almost there. Something. I don't know why, but this sounds a bit too happy for this kind of song. There's no real difference in terms of playability. So I've slowed it down even more. So, completely got it wrong then, but it just goes to show that what you think it might be, it's worth slowing it down and really listening. So all I was doing was changing the notes that repeat focused on, so I could figure out what that mysterious note was. And it sounds like, instead of going, or he's going, and that actually makes sense when you play it here. There's not much that my hand's got to do, so even that's a stretch. If I'm rocking out on stage like these guys do, then I'm going to want it to be as easy as possible to play it whilst I'm moving around. So that I don't need to look down, I don't need to think about moving my hand to a different position. It all sits in that 3rd to 6th fret region. So now I'm going to put it back up to speed, make sure that the whole riff fits and I can play the whole thing. So one of the things that I've identified by doing that is going from here and then back up to here is quite hard, so let's find those notes. There you go. Nice and easy to play as well, so make sure that's right. Yes, intro's sorted. And then I basically do the exact same thing, but for the rest of the track. It's mostly the riff again, but there are 2 chords that we've not figured out yet, so that's just the... That's it. I think with any of these kind of songs, metally kind of songs, there's lots of chord changes that you wouldn't necessarily put in a pop song because they just sound too uncomfortable. So stuff like if you want more insight on that, I'd recommend learning where the first 5 parts of a Phrygian mode fit when you're playing the low C, the low string. Just getting that kind of sound, it's just going to help because your ear already knows that kind of sound, so then you start to mentally be able to go, right, okay, well I know it's not going to be moving too far, it's probably just 1 fret instead of your usual, where it's usually play a fret, miss a fret, play a fret. But once you get that kind of sound in your head, then you'll be able to figure out these songs easier, I think. So let's figure out those 2 chords. Okay, I think that's what it is. Yes. Alright, so that's our intro done. Let's look at the verse. Someone's just seen me through the window doing that. Right, so that's the whole guitar part cycled again. And I think again, because we've been doing that sounds right. Yeah. I think that chord is in there. Yeah, because it sounds like it's going at the end of that phrase. Yeah. Right, so we've discovered a new one. Which sounds nice and metal. Right, so there's... I think that might be it. Right, I'm going to do the same thing again, just slow it down a little bit. I'm pretty certain that that's right, but let's just try just in case. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that phrase, that first part of the riff, and then there's those chords that are on a push. So let's play it and feel where those parts start in terms of the riff, because a riff doesn't finish, it goes into something, goes into those chords, and it might even be the chords that you're playing at that point in the riff. I think it's that. So I know that I can just tell by that there's a slide and the chord sounds high, but it's still fat. So I think he's like, might even be going just up to the octave. Back to that, and that's the same chords as the riff, so that would make sense. Okay, so I think he's actually going, but instead of playing that there, it's up the octave. Right, so let's see, is it there or is it there? This doesn't sound exactly right. Yeah, it's definitely sliding up. Yeah. That's what it is. Definitely. 100%. Right, so that goes back into that intro riff, but again, I'm just going to make sure I can piece those parts together. So it does something different to go into the chorus. I think that's what it is. Yeah, right, so chorus. Right, and I might, sometimes it depends on the kind of chords that they're using, but sometimes I'll just listen to the whole thing and try and figure them out, or sometimes I'll do it chord by chord, but that can cause problems trying to move between them. So what I can hear already is there's 2 chords, and then it plays part of the intro riff, and then it plays the first chord of the first time round, but then it's got 2 other different chords, and it moves down instead of moving upwards. Yeah, this is really sad, but sometimes when I'm in the car driving, I'll be air guitaring, just with the movements like down and upwards, with the chord changes, and I don't know if that might be helping, but it's making me think initially, right, that's going down, so I might be going down the neck, and this part sounds like it's going higher, so it might be going upwards. So I'm just going to see if that actually works. But that's how I figured out this one's going down, this one's going upwards. So let's try and figure that out. And you know what's another thing as well, there's a lot of parts like this, just tend to be 3 chords, and they're, you play the first chord, miss a fret, play the second chord, miss a fret, play the third chord. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're doing here for the first part. So when you're playing in drop tunings, you can sometimes add an extra fret that's like a power chord. It just makes it, I don't know exactly what the theory behind it is, but the chord sounds it sounds fuller to me, and sometimes you can be quite clever with the movements of the chord, so that note is playing into something else, or it's staying on a chord, it's staying there. So it can be like a drone note or a thematic note that stays throughout. Not doing it there. Right, so it doesn't go up to the riff as we know it, up here. I think it's down, so. And another tip is, sometimes the heavier that it sounds, or the more that you hear the riff, it's more than likely either been tracked in the studio, so one guitar is playing the full chord, but another one might be playing the a single line version of that change. So that might be one guitar part, and the other one might be going. So listen. So it's not going to that 6th fret chord. Yeah, so it sounds like he's going from the octave. Whoa. Might even be that. Yeah. Makes sense to play it there as well, because you're not having to go, all over the frets. So. Need to warm up my right hand a little bit more. I'm confident that that's the first part of the chorus. Okay, so just by chance I happen to hit that, and that's the second chord. Surely it can't just be that. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the rhythm right. I know that wasn't played perfectly. I think it's that. So that's it now. I'm going to carry on learning the song so that I can do the part 2 of this video, which is how I record my covers. This is another request that I got to explain how I record the parts, any automation that I use in Logic, what I might add in terms of plugins, and also how I edit the video clips together as well as the audio. So stay tuned for that and let me know what you think about this video. Cheers.